What are you doing? Okay. Is it going to be like this all day, Peter? Okay, come here. Pete's here to help you with a little Grapes of Wrath action. So I believe we picked up the notes at this point. Um, so we should have finished this slide here. I'm going to move it to the next slide. Oh, Pete's coming back. Hi, Pete. How are you? He's a nice cat. So we talked a little bit about weed patch last time we met, and we talked a little bit about how it was such a relief for the Joad family. They had hot water, they had flushed toilets, things they'd never had in their lives, like ever at home. It was kind of a break for them. It was a chance for them to collect themselves since they've been on the run this whole time across most of the United States. So let's talk about weed patch. Okay, Pete. Pete wants to talk about weed patch. Come here. Okay. He just wants held sometimes. He just wants held. So, Weed Patch was a real place. It was a real government camp. In fact, I have here a link to some of the primary source documents from Weed Patch, and I'll pull that up here in just a moment. So, Steinbeck dedicated the book, The Grapes of Wrath, to Tom Collins. Tom Collins was a government labor camp manager, and in fact, he was a camp manager of Weed Patch. He was a real person. So, the camp manager in this story is patterned after that man. He's supposed to be him, essentially. Steinbeck and Collins worked their way down the length of California as farm laborers. Collins became the manager of the first of 15 camps built to support migrant laborers. So there were only 15 of these in California. Now, it may sound like a lot, but California is a big place. California is really it's a huge state. So 15 is not that much in the scheme of, especially in the scope of this disaster and how many people needed help. So here are a couple of these documents. Oh, Pete, you want to look at the documents? No, he wants to check these out. He's really excited about these documents. Get out of my coffee. It's not for you. It's not for cats. It's for me. It's still hot. Okay, you leave it alone though, Peter. I think we're going to see a lot of Pete today. This is his jam. So these are from the National Archives catalog. I know this is probably not like the most exciting thing you've ever seen, but it's kind of cool. I went through a lot of these, and you can just see like it shows how many people are there. Like your documents for how many people showed up at Weed Patch, not Weed Patch. It's not Weed Patch. How many people showed up? How many were in each group? How many of them had jobs? What kind of resources did they still have? So it's kind of interesting to see like where they came from. Like these people were from Pennsylvania. It's a hike, man, from Pennsylvania to California, especially in one of those jalopy cars. But and for some of them, it's like you'll get a little bit of a story, not a ton. A lot of it's just documentation for official purposes. But it's kind of interesting to see that these were real places. This isn't just some invention of John Steinbeck. Let's roll on to the next slide here. Chapter 22. So we talked about Mr. Thomas a little bit in class the other day and how the smaller farmers are being forced by the Farm Association to basically do what the bank tells them to do, or else they may have their loans revoked or there's going to be some type of penalty or penal action against them. We keep hearing the word reds. Reds is it's a slang term. You've probably heard it before in your history class referring to communists. So these people are being called Reds. They're being called communists. Now the question is, are they actually Reds? And something we've touched on in class is, no, they're not communists. They're not these people, the Okies and the people like the Joad family are not pushing for a state-run government where everything's owned by the state and everyone gets the same thing. That's not, they just want a livable wage. So people that want to know how much money they make without getting shot at, which happened in chapter 19. People that want a fair wage, people that want to work hard to receive a fair wage, those aren't communists. Later in the book, we're going to talk more about unions, and you're going to see as the migrants unionize, and that's not communism either. That's just teamwork. It's people working together. There's a difference between teamwork and communism. There's a little overlap there, but asking to get paid not 5 cents an hour and being treated fairly is not communism. So just throwing that out there, and we'll move on. Mr. Thomas. So Mr. Thomas is one of the farmers. He's where Tom got his first job after they arrived at Weed Patch. Um, he lets them know he appreciates them because he knows they just want to work. They want to work to earn a living and support their family, which is pretty respectable. Not communist behavior at all, I wouldn't think. He lets them know there's going to be trouble at the big dance. So there's going to be a fight. The Farmers Bureau, the Farmers Association, is going to get a group of men together, and they are going to basically start a fight at the dance. The idea being that if there's a fight, someone can scream riot, and then the sheriff, who's conveniently going to be waiting outside the gates, can rush in and break it up and hopefully break up this whole camp. Because the people in California, their fear was that these people, like the Jodes, are going to get a chance to get settled in a place like Weed Patch. They're going to get together. They're going to organize. They're going to demand higher wages. They're going to demand to be treated fairly. That's their fear. So the Farmers Association is going to try and break that up. Mr. Thomas tells them because he sympathizes, again, because he appreciates, who they are and where they come from. And he also knows that there's a good chance he's going to be one of them soon. He has a small farm. And as we've talked about the economics and class of farming in this era, having a small farm is tough. It's tough to compete with the big guys. So camp manager, we've talked about him in the last slide. Tom left for work that morning before he could explain everything. He told Ruthie to tell Ma, I got a job. I'm going. I ate breakfast. I ate my bacon, or my side meat, if you will, which is bacon. And the camp manager rolls in. Camp manager comes in, and Mrs. Joad offers him coffee, and he accepts. Does he need coffee? No. The camp manager has all the coffee he could possibly drink. But he accepts anyways, and it's out of politeness. It's kind of like, if you think about this, like, let's say you have eaten dinner. You guys went out to wherever you like to go out to eat. Let's say it's, Rebecca, where do people like to go out to eat? TGI Fridays? Okay. Let's pretend like someone likes to go out to eat at TGI Fridays. That's really all you could come up with TGI Fridays. You felt the pressure, didn't you? Okay. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Okay, so my wife says TGI Fridays. Let's say you and your family go out to TGI Fridays and you just stuff yourself with food. Okay, you are stuffed. You are legitimately. You had 2 full meals. You are full. You're going to Grandma's house. Grandma comes in. Oh, would you like a slice of pie? Now you are about to bust out of your pants. You've eaten so much. But you know what? You take that pie from Grandma. And you know why? Because Grandma offered it, and you don't say no to Grandma. You always say yes because it's the nice thing to do. It's the polite thing to do. And if you say no, Grandma's going to be really upset, and no one wants Grandma to be upset. That's kind of what was happening here. He accepted it out of politeness. Did he want the coffee? Did he need the coffee? It doesn't matter. He accepted it because it's a kind gesture. So that's why he took the coffee from Ma. And this gesture, this very small gesture, meant a lot to Ma. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think we cover that. Yes, we cover that in the next slide. She's got a big quote from there. So, just to hit that last point, how is he accepted? He is accepted. That's how, man. They love him. And this quote on the next slide is, this is big. This is from Ma. So she says, "We're Jodes. We don't look up to nobody. Grandpa's grandpa. He fit in the revolution. We was farm people till the debt, and then them people. They done something to us. Every time they come, seemed like they was a whipping me, all of us. And in Needles, that police, he done something to me. Made me feel mean, made me feel ashamed. And now I ain't ashamed. These folks is our folks, And that manager, he come and sat and drank coffee and says, Mrs. Joad this and Mrs. Joad that. And how you getting on, Mrs. Joad? She stopped and sighed. Why, I feel like people again. So a small gesture like that, and he's being polite. He's calling her Mrs. Joad. He's not calling her an Okie or some other slur. He's being kind. He's being accepting. He's being polite. He's come to her level. This is the kind of thing for her is huge. It makes her feel like people again, which they felt like chased and hunted animals all the way from Oklahoma. All right, let's keep rolling through chapter 22 here. Okay. Ma feels human again. She doesn't feel inferior again. This is huge. It's a huge change for these people. They've been nothing but chased and whipped and threatened all the way from Oklahoma, and now they get a chance to feel like human beings again. We get Miss Sandra Elizabeth in the Weed Patch Camp. She's crazy. She scares Rose of Sharon with her talk of sin, because Rose of Sharon's pregnant. She says, if you do any of that dance or that play acting, it'll kill that baby, which is totally insane, but she keeps repeating it. And the lady, Miss Sandra Elizabeth, again, is, the manager don't believe in my kind of sin. And the manager's like, that's because she's crazy. He essentially says, she's just crazy. Leave her alone. Try and stay away from her. Please don't hurt her, because she's asking to be hurt. But she's just a crazy woman. We're going to talk. Oh no, we're going to talk about it right now. Here it is. Steinbeck's view of religion. So Steinbeck has taken a couple shots at religion, especially with Jehovites. He's really he's got a bone to pick with religion, apparently. And you might ask, does he really? And the answer is, yeah, he kind of did. John Steinbeck was more of a spiritual kind of guy. So he wasn't an organized religion type of person. He was more of a spiritual type of person. What you want to think is he's more of what Jim Casey was becoming in terms of the oversoul and that philosophy and everyone working together and everyone working for each other, rather than going to a building and all saying the same things and praying the same way. So he was not that type of a person. To say he's not religious would be a lie. He just wasn't like an organized religion type of person, more of, again, spiritual. The store, no charity, which is kind of cool. They can take out credit up to $5. And rather than get a freebie, they can work it off around the camp by, doing chores, picking up trash, helping out, stuff like that, being on a committee, which was cool. People like the Jodes, again, they don't want a handout. They want to work their way. They have pride, so this is a big deal. They know that, like, there's no charity, that they can work for their money, which is, it's what they want. That's how they think. Ruthie. So we're going to get into unions pretty soon. We're closing in on it. One example was where Ruthie was forced out of a game of croquet. She was asked to wait her turn. Rather than wait her turn, she just basically took a kid's mallet. Ruthie is a total bully, by the way. I don't know if you've picked up on this. If you don't like Ruthie yet, you're really going to hate her very soon. She is a terrible person. I know she's just like 12 years old, but God, she is awful. She's a bully. She picks on other kids. She picks on her own siblings. Well, sibling Winfield. She doesn't pick on the older kids. Not yet, but man, she's a monster. So she takes this croquet mallet and she forces her way in the croquet. All of the kids, including Winfield, her own brother, step out when the teacher says, everybody stop. She wants to play. She can't play by the rules. She can play by herself. So they all step out and stop playing. Well, playing croquet by yourself is awful. It's not fun at all. Trust me, I did it as a kid a couple times, so I was super bored. It's the worst possible thing you can do. So she starts crying and runs off because no one will play with her, but it's because she wouldn't follow the rules. It's just interesting to see that even her brother knew that, in solidarity, if I stand with these people, we can fight bullies, essentially. So this is the first message that Steinbeck is putting out there about that. We're going to stop this video here. I'm going to pick up chapter 23 in the next video.